What is up, guys? It is your favorite Otaku Lotus here today, and welcome back to the Nerd Corner. And in today's video, I will be bringing you my review, my thoughts, and my reaction on episode 7 of Orange, Letter 7, the most emotionally intense episode that we've had thus far. So let's jump into it. And it starts off where we see Naho and Suwa are basically talking about the letters after we just got the reveal last episode that Suwa also received a letter, and it turns out that the letter he received is actually from his future self, so that clarifies whether or not it was from future Naho or not. And it still begs the question as to whether or not anyone else has letters. I don't think that they do. I won't be surprised if it goes either way, whether everyone else does or doesn't. But it was very interesting to see. Like, that took me completely by surprise and caught me all the way off guard when it was revealed that Suwa also has a letter. So he and Naho start talking about it, and they basically come to the conclusion that they need to work together and strive to make sure that Kakeru is as happy as possible so that they can save him. And they start off by making sure that they celebrate his birthday, because in the original timeline, the future timeline, and this episode might be a little confusing to review and explain when it gets into like these parallel worlds and the time travel and stuff, but in the future they never got to celebrate Kakeru's 17th birthday because they didn't find out about it until after it already passed, and they didn't get to celebrate his 18th birthday because, well, he committed suicide beforehand. I believe his birthday is in September, and he committed suicide in February, I believe, because they said it was the day after Valentine's Day, which is very unfortunate. But we do see in the future timeline that they do celebrate his 18th birthday, not like in the present, but after he's already passed, they're paying their respects at his grandmother's house. But in the present, they go all out and make sure they do everything in their power to celebrate his birthday. Suwa asks when it is, and he surprisingly very easily tells them when it is, and like, oh, it's next week, so we should all celebrate. And then everyone begins, asking him what they should get him. Well, not necessarily what they should get him, because they all kind of say, is there anything you want? And when he says, I don't want any presents, or I don't need any gifts or anything, they're like, it's not a present, even though, I mean, it is a present, but whatever. So everyone pries and figures out something that they can get for him. Like, I believe Hagita gets him some manga, Naho gets him a sports bag, which, by the way, it's interesting because we find out that Kakeru doesn't have a sports bag because he used to have one, but when he transferred schools, like when he moved from Tokyo, his mother threw it out because he wasn't supposed to join any clubs. He was supposed to take care of his mother and nurture her because she was so unstable and sickly and what have you. So she threw it out, so he didn't have one. Naho notices he doesn't have one, and she thinks to herself, well, she'll get him one. After the little exchange between Naho and Kakeru, where she realizes that, okay, a sports bag is what I should get him, she goes out into the hallway to see Ueda. And Ueda starts bullying her, as she does, giving Naho some flack or whatever. And Naho's backing down because, Naho's pretty soft. She's not the type of chick who stands up for herself. So while Ueda's kind of laying down this mental smackdown on her, Taka and Azu show up, the ride or dies. And then we have the savagery, the straight savagery that is Taka, makes Ueda look straight bitch made. And it's funny that I use that word, right? Because Taka shows up, and I'm paraphrasing here, obviously, because I be thugnificent with it sometimes, but Taka shows up and she's like, look, if you don't back off, I'm gonna have to put these hands on you. Real talk. And of course she doesn't say it like that, but she basically like, yo, back up, back off. Like, Kakeru dumped you. He don't want you. He don't want nothing to do with you. And Ueda's like, well, you're a nasty bitch. And I was like, yo, she did not just go there. They did not just slide the B word in there like that. I wasn't expecting that from this series. I wasn't expecting that level of savagery. And then Taka's like, I'm a nasty bitch, huh? And she goes in like she's about to slap fire out of Ueda. But she doesn't. But it's funny because as much as I wanted to, as much as satisfying as that would have been, Taka already proved that she's a straight up savage and that Ueda is bitch made, that she's a punk, because she straight put her in her place. Ueda was flinching and so scared, covering her face. She thought she was about to get smacked in the next week. She thought she was about to get smacked into the future timeline where Kakeru doesn't exist, bruh. I'm trying to tell you. But that was ill. So anyway, she eventually backs off. She's like, for whatever, I don't need Kakeru anyway. So that might be the last we see of Ueda, trying to pester Naho and get involved with Kakeru. Who knows? Which, by the way, Kakeru shows up in the background of that scene, and he's kind of like, what did I just walk into? And Hagita's like, oh my god, girls are scary. And that was kind of funny. But then as the episode progresses, we see everybody, they've got the gifts that Kakeru asks for. And Suwa made sure that he was the last person to ask Kakeru what he wanted, and Kakeru asked for flowers, and apparently he wants these flowers so that he can give them to Naho. And so at the party, everyone gives their gifts, and when Suwa shows up with the flowers, everyone's kind of laughing at him like, yo, why'd you bring flowers? Is he your boyfriend or something? And he's embarrassed. He's like, shut up, Kakeru said that's what he wanted, so I got it. And then Kakeru was embarrassed, and he's kind of like, backing down from the original plan, and he denies it at first. He's like, no, I didn't, I was just kidding, stupid, don't actually bring flowers. And then, you know, big brother, big homie, wingman, best boy Suwa is like, he leans in and he's like, don't run away, man, you got this, you gotta do this. And then so Kakeru takes the flowers and he gives them to Naho. And then we have just like this really romantic and emotional scene where Kakeru confesses all of his feelings for Naho. He straight up tells her exactly how he feels. He's like, you know, when you ask me about, you know, which would I choose between the three of you girls, I said I would choose you, but I would choose you out of any number of girls. And he's like, you don't have to answer right now, you don't have to answer at all, but this is how I really feel, and I just want you to know about that. And she's just like stunned. She's like saying nothing at all. She's holding the flowers. We get a lot of beautiful scenes during this time, and there were just certain moments where it was just so intense where I had to pause and just take a breath and just really think and take it all in and slow it down, or even turn down the volume just so that I could get through the scene. And I don't know if any of you have ever had a moment like that. I don't know if you guys can relate, where something has just been that intense or embarrassing, or like it just brought you to the point where like you had to pause it or turn down the volume or something just to get through it. But that's definitely how I was feeling with a lot of scenes in this episode, that one being one in particular. We also see that in the future timeline that they're celebrating Kakeru's 18th birthday that they never got to celebrate because he committed suicide before that happened. And in the future timeline, they got him all the same gifts. And if you remember earlier on, it might have been in like episode 2, 3, or 4, future Suwa had flowers that were for Kakeru. And he gives Kakeru, well, you know, quote unquote Kakeru, the flowers, you know, at the memorial or whatever at his grandmother's house. And then he picks them right back up and gives them to Naho, and he's like, these are for you, they're from Kakeru. And Naho's like bewildered, and everyone's like, you know, Kakeru loved you, he always had these feelings for you. And I just kept thinking like, yo, no one's this stupid, you can't be this emotionally oblivious. Like, I could have sworn in the last episode and the one before that it had been made abundantly clear that you guys had feelings for each other, but apparently not. Apparently Naho still spent the next 10 years wondering who this person was that Kakeru was interested in, when it was very obviously her all along. But whatever, it's an anime, I'll let it slide, because what else are you gonna do? But after Kakeru confesses his feelings, you know, Naho doesn't give him an answer, and then we transition to like the next scene, and everyone's like in gym or something. I think they're like picking up ping pong balls, and they're like, Naho, so you gonna answer him or not? And she's like all flustered and embarrassed and being all cutesy and shy. She doesn't really know what to say. And then Kakeru steps in, he's like, yo, don't sweat it, don't worry about it, we can just keep on going with things how they have been, we'll just be friends. And everyone's like, so you Mr. Cool now. And I'm like, boy, what you talking about? My boy Kakeru been smooth. Now he slips up every now and then. He done said and did some pretty corny things, and I'm just looking at you like, come on, bruh. But he was Mr. Smooth since episode 1. Like, my man's the king of cool, ice cold, no mistakes, smoother than silk. Alright, he does make a mistake every now and again, but my boy's fly. But as it goes on, we get this scene where Suwa asks to speak with Naho privately, and it turns out that the date where Kakeru was going to commit suicide is approaching very quickly. And they definitely want to prevent this. So, like, you know, it may or may not happen, because apparently we've changed history, and our world isn't the same as the one that our future selves wrote about, but they're still being cautious. So Suwa just straight up confronts Kakeru, and it's interesting because Kakeru was, you know, kind of like daydreaming, gazing out of the window, and he does this like whoosh sound, and it's kind of like the imagery I got from this when he was kind of like making this sound, it was like as if someone was falling, right? And if you guys know, like, you know, the cartoon sounds where, like, if you've ever seen like Roadrunner or something, like say Wile E. Coyote, like he runs off a cliff and he starts falling, and it's like a woo smack. Like, that's what I was expecting. I was waiting for him to make like some sort of impact sound at the end. And because in my mind, what I'm thinking was that he was imagining himself jumping out of the window and committing suicide. And Naho comes in like as he's making this like whoosh sound, and she's like, what was that all about? And he's like, oh, I was just, you know, imagining like if I could jump out of the window and fly away like Superman or something. And she's like, you can't. Like, she takes it like super serious, because she knows that he's been contemplating suicide, but he doesn't know that she knows that. And then, you know, they talk a little bit about it, and he talks about his mom, and if he was Superman, he could have saved her. And Suwa jumps in, confronts him straight up, and is just, he's straight up about it. He's like, yo, like, why won't you talk to us? Like, I know something's been troubling you, I know you've been going through a lot, and I want to know what's on your mind, and it's about your mom, and I know this, have you ever felt like you wanted to die? And he's just hitting Kakeru with like all these questions, like very straightforward, and I'm just like, yo, Suwa is like straight up, he means business. Like, he's really adamant about this. Like, he truly wants to save Kakeru. And at first Kakeru's like, I could never talk about all these things with you, like, you guys are my really close friends, and I just want to laugh with you. And Suwa's like, I don't want to laugh with you without knowing what it is that you're really feeling and what you're really going through. And so Suwa and Kakeru, they kind of cry it out. They talk about some things that are very, emotional. And again, this was one of those things where it got so tense. There were certain times where I just had to pause for a second or turn down the volume a little bit just to get through it. So they embrace, and they're crying, and they're, revealing how they really feel. And Suwa's like, I'm here for you, man. And Kakeru was just crying his eyes out and thinking about his mom. And then we have Naho reveal how she really feels, and she straight up tells Kakeru that she loves him and she doesn't want to lose him, so that he has to stay alive, because she doesn't know what she would do without him, because she's in love with him. And that's pretty much how we end the episode. And damn, was it one hell of an episode. Everything from the art and animation, the music, the emotions, everything was on point. I don't know if I liked it more than last week's episode, but it was definitely just as good, and I absolutely loved it, man. And I don't want to make this video too long. I don't even think it's under 10 minutes, even though that was the goal for today, but hopefully it's shorter than my reviews have been lately. But yeah, I'll probably talk a little bit more in the description on some things I want to mention. But that's it. Definitely let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comment section down below. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, so you guys can stay tuned for all the awesome content I'm bringing you. And with all that being said, that's pretty much all I have today. So I will catch you guys next time. Later.